I'm back again. Guess who? I found this very interesting. It's from the United Department of Veterans Affairs and the VA Office of Research and Development. Look what we got here. Does that look familiar? You know that as COVID, but that's Epstein-Barr. This is from 2018. So Epstein-Barr virus could cause a multiple autoimmune disorder, could be the cause of. Researchers in the Cincinnati VA Medical Center and Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center have found a link between a common virus and multiple autoimmune disorders. The researchers were able to show that a protein created by the Epstein-Barr virus binds to locations on human genes that are known to be associated with lupus. The team analyzed genomic data with a new computer algorithm they called RELI, short for Regulatory Element Locus Intersection. They found that the protein EBNA2 has associations with lupus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease, type 1 diabetes, juvenile idiopathic arthritis, and celiac disease. The study authors have dubbed these 7 conditions the EBNA2 disorders. Dr. John B. Harley, one of the lead authors of the study, described the results as astonishing. As the authors write in the paper, the results could provide, quote, mechanisms possibly explaining the molecular and cellular origins of disease risk. The scientists believe that the strategy they used could have broad implications for all diseases. The researchers have identified more than 2,000 different bindings between various transcription factors and genome loci, only some of which involved the Epstein-Barr virus, possibly explaining the molecular interactions involved in 94 different diseases. Gene-environment interactions may explain disorders. Epstein-Barr is one of the most common viruses in humans. Over 95% of the population of the adult humans have lifelong infections with a virus. It is the cause of mononucleosis and is associated with some forms of cancers and other conditions. And the virus produces the transcription cofactor EBNA2, which binds to specific locations in the human genome, as many as 10,000 locations, according to some estimates. That's a lot of places it can just show up at. Transcription factors are proteins that determine the expression of genes. They direct processes of cell growth, division, and death, and also cell migration and organization. They do this by, quote, turning on and off genes, controlling what that gene creates as a product, such as a protein. Epstein-Barr infects B cells, a type of white blood cell in the immune system. And this may explain the association between Epstein-Barr and the EBNA2 disorders. All 7 are autoimmune diseases, conditions involving an abnormal immune response to a normal body part. In other words, if the link suggested by the results proves true, it is the body's immune and inflammatory response to the virus and to the infected cell that causes the conditions, rather than the virus directly. Harley explains that since the Epstein-Barr virus is so prevalent, human bodies go to extraordinary lengths to try to control and eliminate it. And the virus has developed ways to hide from or avoid the immune system. He writes, quote, the intense host response against the virus has much potential to, quote, go off the rails and waft towards a misdirected pathological response. The link between the Epstein-Barr virus and lupus has been shown by multiple research groups. The rate of infection with the virus were shown to be increased as much as 50-fold in children with lupus in a 1997 study by Harley and colleagues at the University of Oklahoma. Lupus patients have also been shown to have elevated Epstein-Barr virus loads in their blood. The new study, however, does more than confirm an association. It shows a component of possible mechanism, the binding of EBNA2 to specific genes. While the new evidence is circumstantial, it provides a new starting point in the quest to understand how these diseases are generated. Enter COVID. Currently, Epstein-Barr virus is accepted as a causal agent for multiple sclerosis. Harley says it's, quote, curious that the same transcription factors associated with MS risk are also associated with other EBNA2 disorders. Scientists have long known that different variations of the same genes could be risk factors for various diseases. The results of this study may show how an environmental factor, the virus, can interact with these gene variants, so cause different health conditions. Environmental factors. I look over here with some smoke from some bombs and things, and it makes me think of some of the things that are blowing up and plants, factories exploding. What is being released in the air? We don't need nuclear bombs anymore. That is, if you even believed they're there. So he says, Harley cautions, though, that more research is needed before scientists can definitively say that the virus causes these conditions. Now, this sentence right here is extremely disturbing, considering this came out in 2018, and we all know what happens shortly after. So I needed test subjects. I need some test subjects. Get Fauci on the phone. He likes this place. He hangs out here in the virus, the herpes virus playground. He likens the search for a disease cause to a criminal investigation, saying, quote, "Our evidence is comparable to a strong circumstantial case. Maybe the jury would not be able to pronounce a guilty verdict, as if we were accusing the virus of a crime. But virtually all of the jurors would be very suspicious that this virus did do the evil deed." Go fuck yourselves. Jesus, that's scary. It is not yet understood exactly how one form of a gene at a specific spot or a genome increases disease risk compared to different forms at the same spot. Not yet. It's not yet understood. It's on its way. The data will be collected shortly. I'm just like hearing like all of these printers and fax machines and things just piling data into the office. The link between where on the genome transcription factors bind and disease risk appears to be more than chance, suggesting that this binding is a mechanism for disease development. But Harley says that, quote, "Proving that a possible mechanism is truly responsible for generating disease risk is a whole different problem." While the results show that EBNA2 is associated with all these conditions, the genes the proteins is binding with is different for each condition, depending on what gene variant a person has. The same virus could cause different conditions. Holy shit. I couldn't have found more proof. I mean, come on. I'm saying this. You're the jury. Does this not sound like a call to action? This is from the VA. We need to come together for the greater good. Call to action. I need lots of people with lots of gene variants so that I can see all of the different causes, the difference that this virus will cause in different conditions. I need a control group. I need a specific thing. We're going to call it COVID-19. It is specifically designed so that we can follow its progression and we can cure all the ailments that will come. And that is our way into the next. And here it is. Holy shit. That's beautiful. I have to give it to them. Fucking amazingly brilliant what they have done. A discovery could lead to new treatments. Ooh, I'm so excited to read this part. Holy shit. I just want to note right now that I have been skating on thin ice, sharing all of this stuff, and fuck it. I'll go. I can take the hit. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. Okay. And then I'll have to, we'll have to take it one article at a time. But for whatever reason, the Google gods are liking me right now, or the universe, or whatever, and it's allowing me to share these things. So share them if you find them interesting. But if I disappear for a couple of weeks, that would be why. So another gouge in the wall or a lash on my back. I get another mark. Proud. I'm a proud card carrying member of not only the Itty Bitty Titty Committee, but You've Been Struck for Misinformation from YouTube and every other crazy thing that can come up with, including what was it for sharing about menopause? Male menopause got me hit for sexual content. I even tried to say I'm sharing articles. I didn't even share anything. I didn't share anything. I showed nothing, no pictures, no anything. So I feel like for whatever reason, I'm able to share this stuff. So as I, get back on track here and finish reading this amazingly beautiful article here. Harley believes that discovering the basic mechanisms underlining the virus's effects on genes could lead to exciting advances. It means that Epstein-Barr virus causes these diseases, then it is information that is as valuable as knowing that M. tuberculosis causes pulmonary tuberculosis, or that human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, causes AIDS, he wrote in an email. I told you he's friends with Fauci. Harley tempers the optimism with a realistic perspective on how long it might take to translate his lab's basic science work into clinical treatments. How long do you need? 2 years. Continuing his analogy to tuberculosis and AIDS, he notes, quote, in the first case, it must have been 80 years between establishing the cause of pulmonary tuberculosis as M. tuberculosis and the discovery is effective therapy. For HIV, the time between its discovery and effective therapies for AIDS was much shorter, probably about 15 years. I wonder how long it will be before we have effective therapies, vaccines, and preventive measures for Epstein-Barr virus. 7, I'm going to cut the 15 years in half, bitches. Take that, Fauci. Harley mentions several ways that the findings could eventually lead to treatment advances. In this unexpected relationship between the Epstein-Barr virus and autoimmune diseases, in fact, proves to be the root cause for at least some of the patients with these diseases, then a vaccine could be developed. An effective vaccine would prevent disease altogether for at least some of the patients, even if the virus is not the only plausible cause. The discovery could also redirect drug development for people with these diseases. This is always right where you go, right to that's exactly what I found when, a decade or so ago when I was researching about my own genetic conditions and finding out that the only research papers I could find from when it was first discovered was research papers to find out what comorbidities you were going to get based off of what kind of traumas you experienced as a child. So, what was your adult outcome based off of your emotional and physical issues that you had as a child? What were you going to suffer from? And it was being sponsored by a pharmaceutical company so that they could anticipate specific medications in the future. So, knowing that, it just sickens me. Should sicken everyone what we're reading here. This is absolutely insanity. The discovery could also redirect the development for people with these diseases, the drug development. Further research could focus on specific gene locale interactions that cause each specific condition. And I think that's what we've got here with the with the corona, the crown virus is that, and this is just 19. This is the one, this is, they're just giving it a number. And they named it after the year. There'll be more to come. We'll call it, COVID. They have all these different variants, but just like in generational studies, they use different names to describe basically the same thing. Each generation is still nomadic, but it gets a different name every time. Ultimately, still nomadic, though, or still a hero. Developing new drug treatments or vaccines will take years more further research, but figuring out, unless we have a whole lot of patients, that's going to speed things up a bit, don't you think, Steve? Yes, Bob, it will. But figuring out the root cause of these conditions will point researchers in the right direction, says Harley. Quote, we give the world a starting place for figuring out how these mechanisms operate by bringing the genetic locale together with Epstein-Barr virus nuclear antigen 2, EBNA2. Do you remember, all of the similarities they had with Ebola and CB and some of their things that, we can name it something different. Wow. More studies are now planned. Jesus Christ. Oh, man. For example, Dr. Matthew, a principal investigator on this study, is working on a study to develop the observations as more specifically applied to multiple sclerosis along the rest of the current team, along with them. The research was supported by the National Institutes of Health, the VA, the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and the University of Cincinnati. And Harley points out that the project used data made available by thousands of scientists working on other investigations. Quote, without such a strong spirit of scientific generosity, this study, as well as many other important projects, would simply not exist, he says. There's a little video. I don't know. I don't want to take the risk of playing it there, but the link's in the description. Wow. Well, that was fun. Oh, man. If I'm lying, I'm dying. Do I sound wrong? Does these thoughts in my head, is it wrong that I'm having these thoughts? I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm writing a science fiction novel. And this is what my story is about. My story is about, a conglomerate of people who chose a specific illness in order to infect the most amount of people, most amount of the characters in my film, in my story, and then be able to, in a controlled fashion, knowing that this particular virus is unlocking, gives me keys to other things. And wow, it's pretty amazing to think of it. I think I'd go watch the film, wouldn't you? Would you watch my science fiction film and see how they, pulled off the trick? We could have some kind of cool music and some slow-mo actions from like Las Vegas or something. Started out with, in the field of gambling, nobody does it better than germologist or virologists. They're in their lab coats, like walking out. Anyway, how'd you pull that one off? You know, the trick was revealed, these kind I'm just thinking of all the, monologuing scenes that I could put to open my film with. Is it gonna be a science is it gonna be a documentary? Am I making a sci-fi movie? Is that a horror movie? Who knows?